So I just watched a brand new David Leitch movie known as Bullet Train, and it's an awful movie. It's horrible. Today I'm going to be telling you why it's the worst movie ever. I'm just kidding. I actually love this movie, and I think I may love it more than others because when I was seeing the reviews, they were more just kind of average. They were like, hey, it's a good movie, it's a fun time, and that's about it. When I watched the movie, I think it's a masterpiece in action cinema. This is peak action movies at its peak. This is the prime era. And I'm not even joking. I'm not being sarcastic. Everyone delivered in this movie, whether it's Aaron Taylor Johnson, Brian Tyree Henry, Joey King, Brad Pitt. Everyone was amazing. This movie blew me beyond expectations because even though I thought the trailers were really good, especially playing that BG song, Staying Alive, I still didn't expect the movie to be this good, and I think it's peak action. This is to me what John Wick is like, or Nobody, those kinds of movies. But if I'm to tell you what kind of movie I relate this movie mostly to, it's Pulp Fiction. It gives me a lot of Pulp Fiction vibes. So if you like Pulp Fiction, then you're probably really going to love this movie. But let's get into the review. So let's just get things started. I think this movie might be a top 3 best movie of the year. The only movie I can say I like more than this one is probably Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think this movie is better than Northman. I think it's better than The Batman. I think it's better than Nope, although I probably won't have Nope at the top 10. But and I'm not being sarcastic or anything. This movie blew me beyond all expectations. If you're an action movie fan, especially like comedy kind of action, you're going to love this. You're going to love this. And I'm genuinely surprised. And again, this movie is a lot like Pulp Fiction, and you'll know what I'm saying when I watch the movie. But let's first get the standouts. Brad Pitt as Ladybug. Yeah, they have weird names. Brad Pitt was phenomenal. One thing I love so much about his character is usually in action movies, the characters take everything serious, even if it's something, weird that you shouldn't survive. Kind of like Fast and Furious. Fast and Furious takes itself too, Fast and Furious doesn't take itself serious at all. And so Brad Pitt, one thing I love that they do in this movie with Brad Pitt is that Brad Pitt is aware of everything, but he still finds it weird. Like, for example, you see in the trailers when Bad Bunny's character, the wolf, attacks him, he's like, why do you attack me? I don't even know you. In movies, they never really ask. They're just fight, fight, fight. And then I love that the character is aware of all the situations. And I love that they add like a comedic spin to it without, it feels like comedy, but it doesn't feel like Marvel comedy, which I love Marvel. I love the MCU. But one thing I don't like about Marvel is they tend to put awkward jokes and like awkward moments. And that I don't like. I always prefer when the comedy feels more natural. It feels like the characters are genuinely saying that towards themselves rather than to the audience. Now, yeah, there's a couple of Marvel jokes here, but they're kind of like the good ones. But that's Brad Pitt's character, and I love that. He, of course, is the standout of the movie. Or, yeah, I would say he is the standout. I mean, he is starring in it, but it's freaking amazing. Joey King as Prince. Joey King, I didn't think she would be in this movie as much. Looking at the trailers, it seemed like she was barely going to be in it. She's in it a lot, and she's really great in this movie, the acting, everything. But let's talk about the real man of the match. I loved Brad Pitt. I loved him. He was great. He was phenomenal. We all know he's an amazing actor on his best days. But the main man of the match has to go to the duo of Aaron Taylor Johnson and Brian Tyree Henry. Lemon and Tangerine. Probably one of the best duos I've seen in any movie in a long time. And let me tell you this right now, if they were to ever do some form of a spin-off movie of both Aaron Taylor Johnson and Brian Tyree Henry, I want that. That's the movie I want most right now. That's the number one movie. Because in this movie, the two characters, by the way, they both have British accents. So I forgot that when I went into the movie, so Kieran, that was kind of funny. But I genuinely want them to do more with these characters because their chemistry together, it felt like they genuinely were best friends. And they're actually twins in the movie. I know what you're about to say. They look different. They kind of make that running joke in the movie where they're twins, but they look completely different. I mean, I don't know about you, but they both look the same. I'm just kidding. But no, truly, their chemistry was amazing. Their banter was amazing. There's a specific scene in the beginning when you get the origins, or not the origins, but you get kind of backs. Because this movie has a lot of flashbacks. You can kind of tell from the trailer. This movie does take, like, I would say 95% of this movie takes place on the bullet train itself, but you will get flashbacks. You kind of get to know the characters a lot more. And when you get to see the flashbacks of Aaron Taylor Johnson and Brian Tyree Henry, it kind of feels very Deadpool-esque. I don't want to spoil anything. Again, this is a non-spoiler review, but it feels very Deadpool-esque. And you'll know what I mean when you watch the movie, and I love that. The action looks phenomenal. The the movie visually looks very appealing. It felt very cinematic. Everything looks stunning. I mean, I won't say this is, this isn't like a Tarantino hero movie. It's not like that, but it's definitely beautiful. It looks amazing. But I'm blown away because I didn't think this movie would be this good. Now I know some of y'all are wondering, how's Bad Bunny in this. I'm not really a fan of Bad Bunny outside. I don't really keep up with his music. I know everyone's trying to figure out, how is he going to do El Muerto. I'll say this: the movie doesn't show him as much as you think. In fact, there is a big flashback to him that makes you think he's going to be this major character, but he only shows up for a couple of minutes. Um, I think, I mean, he didn't. It didn't seem like he had much to do besides be angry. But I do like how they fleshed out the character. Now, will this excite me for El Muerto? Probably not, because he didn't do that much. But that's because he had a short, limited time. Even though the movie makes you think that this is going to be like a major player. And that's something I like. The movie constantly challenges you. It constantly changes what you think is the movie. And in my mind, I was trying to piece together the plot. Because throughout, I like those kinds of movies where they don't just give you the entire story. They kind of let you slowly over time piece the puzzles together. Those are kind of my favorite movies. And this movie kind of does that. It's slowly, slowly, slowly. You kind of start getting the gist. But then eventually something happens. And then everything you had in your mind just kind of dismantles. Kind of like a house of cards. And then you get the real play. You get this, you get that. And I love that. Everyone was great in it. There are 3 cameos. I won't say what they are because I don't want to spoil them. Although some of them have been spoiled already online and all that. But there are 3 cameos in this movie I did not expect from 3 very talented actors. And I was surprised that they showed up. 2 of them were just cameos. The other one was actually a major character. But I was actually surprised. But everything looked amazing. I will say the trailers kind of undersell this movie. Although the trailers are wonderful, they kind of undersell to you what this movie is. One thing that I found cool was the character of White Death that they constantly keep teasing throughout the film. And then when you eventually get to see him, you do get to see him be pretty cool, pretty badass. There's even like this cool scene you see in the trailers where like he has like a gun and that barrel, he kind of like flicks it on his arm, and you can see in the trailer. And he does that like twice in the movie, and both times it looks visually stunning. But the one that looked most visually stunning was the one you see in the trailer. There are also some small characters that they're confirmed because they were in the trailers. I actually rewatched the trailer before this. But Zazie Beetz is in this movie, and Sandra Bullock is in this movie. They're not in this movie that much. In fact, the trailers kind of give away their entire scenes. So I was a little surprised because I kept seeing they were marketing Zazie Beetz, but she's barely in it. That's like literally her only scene, and I was a little surprised. But this just adds on to the little details this movie constantly keeps adding. It adds little by little. It keeps trying to piece the puzzles, and then eventually you think you got the puzzle, but then it just collapses, and then there's like another. You got to rebuild the puzzle, and then and then till you get to the very end, you're like, oh, that's pretty clever. But this movie looked great. It was amazing. Will I say this movie is a masterpiece? It is. I'll say it's a masterpiece, and I say that very, very little. You guys know in my reviews, I'll rarely ever use the term masterpiece, which is the highest thing you can call a movie. But this is honestly one of the best action movies I've seen in the last couple of years. It's genuinely wonderful. I don't think I've seen an action movie this good since, I'm trying to remember what movies came out. Probably Nobody, that Bob Odenkirk movie. Or I don't know. I'd have to think. You guys have to remind me what movies came in between because I get things confused. I watch a lot of movies. Although, no, I'd say the Batman has better action. But I'm not going to lie to you. I think Bullet Train's a better movie than the Batman. Now, that's probably going to be unpopular because a lot of people who are reviewing Bullet Train are saying it's really good, but they're not saying it's perfect. The soundtrack in this movie is great. It's wonderful. There are 2 songs you hear in this movie that are popular American songs, but they're kind of translated in Japanese, and it kind of fits perfectly. All the characters, all the actors are great. Hiyoki Sanada, I believe that's the character's name. I mean, that's the actor's name. He plays a character named The Elder. You see him in the trailers. He does great with what he has. Everyone did great. I think there's not a single bad performance. Although I know a lot of people are going to ask me about Bad Bunny. He really didn't do much. There's only one negative. Only one single negative. And besides that, I have not another negative. But this isn't even really a negative. This is more of a nitpick. This is something that I can still live with. A negative would have to be something that kind of affects my viewing of a movie. Like saying one scene is terrible and that's it. But there's a nitpick I have in the movie. Now, this isn't a spoiler because you see this in the trailer. However, I'll say what the first event is, but there's a second time they do this. But I won't say the second event. I'll talk about the first one. In the trailers, and you see this in the trailer, it's not a spoiler. There's a scene where the characters are falling out of the bullet train. You see Aaron Taylor Johnson and Brad Pitt's characters. They're both falling out the train. And my one nitpick is that's pretty stupid because this is a bullet train. This is a train going fast, incredibly fast, and no human should be able to survive that kind of, impact. And they do it a second time. Actually, they do it a third time. They do it quite often. And I still don't think it makes sense how they're able to live for that long, almost being pushed away with that much speed and velocity. That's my one nitpick. But either way, it was still cool. The movie was great. The coloring was great. I love going throughout the bullet train where you kind of see different rooms. Like there's first class, there's the quiet part, there's the regular ones, and there's this very colorful one. It's honestly nice. And the movie constantly adds I know I brought this up, but it keeps adding little details throughout the films. Like there's like a couple surprises in the movie. And one thing I'm going to give it praise for is one thing I often don't like about movies is they kind of make guns feel like they're nothing. I mean, yeah, they show guns killing people, but you never get to feel it because a lot of times they kill side characters or, characters that aren't part of the story. What I like that this movie does with guns is you hear the sound very well. Like you can hear when they're shooting a gun very well. And they keep visualizing to you that a gun is incredibly dangerous. There's even a point in the movie where you hear a gun go off and all you can be like, because the movie makes it really loud. It makes you fear for the characters. And I love that. I don't like it when movies just make guns kind of like, oh, there, bye-bye. I like it when they make you feel the impact. The last time I saw this was probably in the Batman when Selena Kyle is about to shoot Falcone, and you kind of hear the sound. That's what I love. When the sound of a gun is incredibly loud to the point where it gives you chills. This movie does that quite often, and I love that because, again, I genuinely feel like sometimes guns aren't used right in movies because they feel like they're nothing. But no, everything looked great. There was one scene that kind of felt very Fast and Furious, where it kind of felt unrealistic that this happened, or actually two, which I did bring up one, but I'm not going to say the other. But there's moments like that, but there's very few moments. What I like is that the movie's self-aware to kind of realize it's just a fun, dumb movie. But I would say it's beyond that. It's a masterpiece in action cinema. It is peak cinema, or peak action specifically. It's all well done. It's well made. And honestly, bravo to everyone who was a part of making this movie. Honestly, chef's kiss. It was phenomenal. It was great. And again, I think this movie is better than The Northman, better than The Batman. I think it's probably not better than Everywhere All at Once, but it's probably in that second place. And I think it deserves that position, or at least to me. Of course, it's all my own subjective opinion, but I completely was blown away by how freaking amazing. I was flabbergasted. I was flabbergasted at how wonderful this movie is. I really enjoyed it, but that's my only nitpick with the movie. And again, I would love to see a spin-off with Aaron Taylor Johnson and Brian Tyree Henry. They both had such amazing chemistry, and the movie makes you feel the stakes because you get like different characters. So you get to see Joey Prince, Brad Pitt, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Brian Tyree Henry. This one other guy, I forgot what his name is, but you feel like all of their stories, and you feel stakes for each character because they keep building up their motivations. They're enjoyable characters to watch, and I honestly love that the movie did that. And even Bad Bunny, who was barely in this movie, even you cared for him after you got to see his backstory. But it genuinely was a wonderful movie. Anyways, now I will say, who do I recommend this movie to? Now, it is R-rated, so if you don't want to take your little ones, that's all right. But if you're somebody who's big into action, if you're big into kind of like John Wick, Nobody, those kinds of action-like movies, even like if you're a fan of Shang-Chi, you're probably going to like this kind of action. You're going to love this movie. It definitely is something that you have to go check out in theaters because this movie deserves to get the cinematic treatment. And who else? I mean, people who love Pulp Fiction. Again, I won't say how, but this movie does give you a lot of Pulp Fiction vibes, but it is what it is. But yeah, those are the people who I mainly think are the main target for these kinds of movies, especially if you're somebody who just wants to go to the theater. Maybe let's say you don't want I mean, this movie does have some emotion, but it's mainly focusing on the action and all that and the characters' dialogue, their banter and everything. If you want that kind of movie where you can just go in, eat some popcorn, drink a soda, and then just leave, having had fun, this movie's perfect. It's perfect. I don't think a lot of you guys are going to be in the same position where I think it's one of the best movies of the year, but you'll definitely love it. You'll definitely love it. But anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Let me know in the comments, what did you think about my review? Did you like it? Did you not? Whatever it is, please let us know in the comment section down below. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.